Hey y'all, it's Alicia Marie, and you're watching Tea with Alicia Marie. Today's episode is called Divinely Divorced. So go grab your coffee or your tea and come have a cup with me. Today's tea is Lychee Black, which as its name suggests is a black tea infused with lychee fruit. The fruity flavor is poppin' and the caffeine ain't stoppin'. This is probably one of my favorite teas. Hey y'all, welcome back, and today we are going to be talking about my divorce. Now, this is not my favorite subject by any means, but I feel like as a Christian, and with the kind of taboo that's put on divorce in the church or in Christianity, but it is something that unfortunately still happens at the same rate as it does outside of the church, that I wanted to talk about it because I know that there's so much guilt and shame that is associated with divorce in the church, or even just in general, because it's a failure. And before y'all come for me about the title, I'm just going to throw my mom under the bus right now and say she's the one who came up with that title. Okay? Divinely Divorced was her idea, not mine. But it did strike a chord with me because when she said that, I went, and I did. I clutched my pearls and I called her a blasphemous heretic, not to her face, not out loud, but in my head because I'm not crazy. And I know that she has the ability to reach through the computer and still snatch me up. But in my head, I was like, how could you say something? How could you put the words divine and divorced in the same sentence? Like, wow, lady, you are on one today. But I had to stop and think about it because you grow up in the church and you hear all the verses about divorce and how much God hates divorce. The only reason you can get divorced is for sexual immorality and this, that, and the third, and all that kind of stuff. And it's like there's just so much pressure. And it's like they make it seem like divorce is almost like the worst thing that you can do. God hates divorce. God hates divorce. He does. But in Proverbs, let me find the scripture. Proverbs 6:16 through 19. It says, "These 6 things the Lord hates. Yes, 7 are an abomination to him." And it always cracks me up because it's like, why do you say 6 and then 7? Like, could you not have gone back and erased the 6 and just been like 7 things? But anyway, I guess it's like that for a reason. "These 6 things the Lord hates. Yes, 7 are an abomination to him. A proud look, a lying tongue, hands that shed innocent blood, a heart that devises wicked plans, feet that are swift in running to evil, a false witness who speaks lies, and one who sows discord among the brethren." Right? So there's a lot of things that God hates. I hate divorce. I think a lot of people hate divorce, but guess what? You're not going to hell. God is not condemning you for your divorce. And I know especially if you didn't want the divorce, in my situation, I did not want the divorce. It was not my idea. It was not my choice. I did everything that I could to not make this happen. But it happens. It happens. And I will tell you, I am the biggest, I believe in marriage. I believe that every marriage that can be saved should be saved. But I understand that there are some that can't be saved and some that shouldn't. Because I firmly believe that if you are getting cheated on or beaten on, go. I mean, the cheating is going to be your choice, right? If you want to work through it, you work through it. If that's what you feel like God is telling you to do, you do that. I am not here to tell you what to do with your marriage. I'm not telling you to get divorced. I'm not telling you not to get divorced. I'm not telling you anything. But if you are in an abusive situation, you are being abused, your child is being abused, and this goes for men or women, because men can also be in domestic violence situation. If you are being beat on, get out. God is not going to call you to stay in a marriage where your butt's getting whooped every day just for the sake of not getting divorced. Leave. Go somewhere safe. You can still pray for that person in another location. Please do not stay. If you are in any type of abusive situation, please leave. God is not wanting you to stay in that situation. He's not asking you to harm yourself or allow yourself to be harmed just to save your marriage. Okay? I'm going to say that. So fruity. However, in that same vein, I do feel like we as a society, especially here in America, we give up on marriage way too quickly. How many times did you see, irreconcilable differences? What does that mean? You're not happy anymore. You don't feel unicorns and rainbows and sunshine anymore. They annoy you. The grass is greener on the other side. What is irreconcilable differences? Do you just not want to put in the work? I think that we put so much pressure or responsibility on the other person for our happiness, when the truth of the matter is that no one can make you happy but you. You are solely responsible for your own happiness. And if you're putting it to someone else, your spouse, to make you happy, then you're going to be very unhappy. Because if your happiness is based on them and their actions, then there are going to be lots of times when you're going to be unhappy. You are responsible for your own happiness. Is it nice for them to do things that make you happy? Yeah, it is. And as partners and spouses, we should, do things that, make our spouses happy. We should try to operate in their love languages. But whether or not they are happy is not our responsibility. Love is a choice. We have to, love is not a feeling. And I think a lot of times too, especially as women, we put too much stock in the rainbows and the sunshine and the unicorns. That feeling, that butterfly feeling, that googly feeling, that heart fluttery feeling that we get when we see them. It's great. Sure, it makes us feel good. We love it. But it's not lasting. It doesn't last because it's not love. It's chemicals. It's a chemical reaction in your body. It's hormones. It's adrenaline, whatever it is. I don't know. I'm not a scientist, but I know that it's not love. Love is a choice. Love is an action. Love is something you have to choose every day when you wake up and roll over and see that person with saliva crusted all over their face and blah, blah, and you go, you know what? I'm going to love this person. When you want to throat punch him, you have to make a choice to love that person. We can't just throw in the towel just because things don't go our way or things aren't easy. Marriage is the hardest thing that you will ever do because it's not just about you. It's not just about what you want. You guys become one. So it is a joint effort. And everybody has to pull their own weight. Everyone says marriage is 50-50. No, marriage should be 100-100. And sometimes you get one person who's not pulling their weight and it makes it unpleasant. There are times when you have to fight for your marriage. And I think that, again, unless you're in a toxic situation, that all marriages should be fought for. If one partner doesn't want to continue the relationship, there's nothing you can do about it. If you've done your best, you've given it to God, and your partner still wants a divorce, it's not your fault. And I'm saying this because now I want to talk about my divorce. I don't want to talk about it, but we're going to do it. We're going to do it. So just for this first part, we're going to talk about what happened. And then my next segment will probably be about the healing process. And I'm just going to say up front, I don't want to get into too much detail because there are some things that run into him and whatever it was he's dealing with. And that's his story. That's not mine. I'm not here to talk bad about anybody. I'm not here to make anyone look some type of way. I'm not. I'm telling my side of the story. He has a side. I don't know his side. But I still have to, tell it from my experience. So in February of 2024, end of February, beginning of March, my husband of almost 10 years surprised me by asking me for a divorce or saying he wanted a divorce. And when I say it completely stunned me, shocked me, it came out of nowhere because there had been no lead up. We hadn't been fighting for 6 or 7 months. We hadn't been in therapy for 6 and 7 months. We weren't doing most of the normal things that happen when people finally decide to get a divorce. There was nothing. We had a fight like 2 weeks prior to this, which again was unusual for us because we didn't fight. But it wasn't like I was like, oh, we got into a fight. I bet he's gonna want a divorce now. It wasn't like that at all. It was kind of like, okay, he's acting weird. Maybe the fight really bugged him. Maybe there's something else going on and he just doesn't want to talk about it. Maybe it's just taking him a while to deal with it. So when he said that he wanted a divorce, or what he said was dissolution of marriage, not that that makes it any better, I was kind of like, what is happening right now? Like, where is this coming from? I don't know. It was like someone just walked up and punched me in the stomach, and it was like my brain didn't know how to handle it, because part of it was like fumbling, part of it was like trying to grasp for anything to hold on to, and the other part was like in survival mode, like hold on, calm down, don't let them see you sweat. And it was just like there was just so much like in my head that I was just like I honestly was just like a deer in headlights. And so over the next couple of days, he came up to me because I think there had been some talk about, maybe trying to start over and like find the friendship that we had at the beginning. And he came up to me and he goes, I don't want to work on it. I don't want to be friends. I don't want to start all over. I just want the divorce. And he hands me a piece of paper with a list of all of the assets that he's willing to give me. And I was just kind of like, okay, no, this is okay. He just needs some time. God's going to work this out. And so I'm like, okay, well, I'll go to California and visit my family for a couple of weeks. I'll give you some alone time, let you just be by yourself, think about it. And then when I come back, if you still want to do this, then we can sit down with like a mediator and hash it out, and do it that way. And he said, okay. And so I'm getting ready to go to California. The day before, there's a knock on the door, and this man hands me an envelope, and I'm like, what is this? And so I open it, and he has filed a divorce lawsuit. He's suing me for divorce. And now it's like someone has just yanked the rug from underneath my feet. Because the last time I checked, we were supposed to wait until I came back from California to even move further. But now it was just like, he didn't even tell me. He didn't say, hey, I changed my mind. Let's do it now, or whatever. It was just like, hey, knock at the door, surprise, I'm suing you for divorce. And it was like my world just totally fell apart, crumbled. I don't even know. Like, I was spinning. And so I'm like in a panic. I call my mom. I'm like, he filed for divorce. I don't know what to do. I'm trying to pack to get ready to go to California. And now I have to find a lawyer because I have 21 days to respond to this lawsuit. So now I have to find a lawyer. And thankfully, my chiropractor, who knows pretty much everyone in this town, I was able to call him and ask him. He gave me some recommendations, and I was able to find a lawyer to look at the paperwork and tell me what to do next. So when he comes home, I'm just like still not understanding what I've done, because he kept saying, it's nothing you did, it's just me, this is what's best for me, I got stuff I'm going through. And I'm like, okay, but you don't just divorce somebody you've been with for 10 years, been married to for 10 years because, of some stuff you're going through. Like, there has to be something that I've done, and I can't fix it if I don't know what it is. And so when I confronted him about the paperwork, and I was like, what is it? I said, you just don't want to be married anymore? And he was like, I don't want to be married to you. I don't want to take care of you. I don't want to worry about you. I don't want to be emotionally available to you, to Alicia. I don't want to be Alicia's husband anymore. And that was kind of like daggers, just multiple daggers in my heart. Because, when someone says, I just don't want to be married, if he had just said, I don't want to be married anymore, I want to be solo, I want to live my life the way I want to live it, without a wife, without anything, then, I could have been like, okay, I understand that. But when he said me specifically, I was like, it just doesn't get any more personal than that. There's no way I can put it into words the way that felt. It was very specific, and it hurt. Like I was broken. I was absolutely broken. I went to California. And of course, at this point, I am like really just trying to keep it all together. And I remember just like, God, you're going to come through. I know you are. You're not going to let this happen. You hate divorce. You're not going to let this happen. You know how much I love him. I know that you don't want me divorced. You want us to get divorced. And I know that you're going to come through. I was a mess. I wasn't as much as a mess as I could have been, because I will say that even in this dark time where I felt like I had just fallen into this pit and there was like no up, there was no down, I couldn't see, there was nothing for me to grab on. It was just like falling endlessly into the darkness. But in that moment, in that whole time, I felt the peace of God like I had never experienced in probably all of my life. And I can't really explain it, except for it was like just like this little light in the darkness. And it wasn't even like I was just like, okay, I was just so peaceful and calm. I was like, God's going to work this out. No, I was crying. I was boohooing. I was snotting and eating candy and, cookies and doing all the things and just a mess for the whole entirety that I was there. I wouldn't let anybody talk about it. I wouldn't let anybody bring up his name. It was just like, don't mention it. It's not happening. And part of me was in denial, right? Still, because I was praying. I was praying. Lord, you were going to work this out. Lord, don't let this happen. Please don't let this happen. But at the same time, it was like this man that I have loved and been with for 12 years, including the time we dated, was acting like I was nothing, right? He didn't want me anymore. I was rejected. I was abandoned. I was being tossed aside like I was absolutely nothing. And that was almost the biggest thing, is like, how do you go from, I love you so much, I love coming home to you, all the things that he told me, all the things that he said, all the things that, we had done, and whatever, you go from that to all of a sudden, out of nowhere, just like someone pushed a button, and I mean absolutely nothing to you anymore. And I couldn't wrap my brain around it, because I still, in my head, he's still my husband. He is still my husband, right? Just because he wants a divorce and the paper had been filed, that didn't mean anything. I was like, this is still my husband. I'm still praying. I'm still fighting. I know God's going to work it out. But it was like just kind of like a knowing in the back of my head that everything was going to work out fine, that everything was going to be fine. And I guess maybe part of me was like, thought that meant that the marriage was not going to end. But again, I think people get confused when you say that you have peace, because peace does not mean the storm goes away, right? Jesus was in the boat sleeping during the storm, in the middle of the storm, the boat's tossing and turning and water's rushing in and everyone's freaking out, and Jesus is sleeping because he's at peace. The storm didn't stop until he told it to stop. But he was napping. Now, I wasn't napping. I absolutely was not napping, because I was in a painful situation. God doesn't always take away the painful situation. Sometimes you have to go through it. We have to go through the painful situations. And one thing I have learned through this is that you have to stop running from the painful situations. And I was a runner. If it was emotional, if I was going to feel pain, I was not for it. And I was a runner. And I was like, nope, not doing it. I'm not doing this, God. I'm not dealing with this. Wall, wall, wall. And I had to make a choice. I had to make a choice. And it was like, I don't know when this is going to end. I don't know how long I'm going to be in pain. I don't know how long this process is going to be, but I had to make a choice to let God do what he was going to do or run from it and extend it even longer. Because I don't want to be like the children of Israel. That trip to the promised land should have only taken 11 days, and instead it took 40 years. And I didn't know what God was doing. I was like, are you testing me? Are you trying me? Like, what's going on? And he wouldn't answer me. He wouldn't tell me what he was doing. And so I was praying, I spent so much time. And it was like, in these moments too, also, we make a choice. Are we going to run from God because we're mad and we're angry? Or are we going to run to God? Are we going to stay in his word? Are we going to dig in deep? Are we going to still go to church? Are we still going to do what's right? Or are we going to turn our back on God? And I don't know where I would be if I turned my back on him. I'm going to be completely honest. And it was only in those moments, digging into the word, that so many things came alive to me that in all my years of being a Christian didn't make sense. And all of a sudden, Psalm 23, yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. It came alive, and it wasn't just a verse that I'd quoted since I was a kid. It wasn't just a verse that I'd memorized anymore. It was real because I was going through it. And I knew that he was with me, even in spite of the pain.